today's session we will be talking about the Cobra flush valves, the Flushmaster flush valves. But before we can actually start discussing about them, we've got to know exactly what is pressure. We will also have a look at the junior Flushmaster and then the standard Flushmaster flush valve. First of all, pressure. The formula for pressure is pressure equals to the force of anything over the area that it's pushing in on. So it is the weight of the water on the surface area. So rule of thumb, if you have a 1 meter head of water, that is the column of water, 1 meter, it'll give you 10 kilopascals of water. Similarly, if you have a 10 meter head, you simply times that by 10, so it'll give you the 100 kilopascal head of water. So then if the top of the water to where I'm measuring on this gauge here is 18 meters, simply once again we times the 18 by 10, which will give you 180 kilopascal. But now that is static pressure. As soon as there is a movement of water, there's motion, the pressure reduces. That is because, as Bernoulli explained it to us, energy is never lost. The sum of the energies in a system stays constant. So if our potential energy is there, that is a constant. The pressure at the bottom, when everything is static and there's no movement, equals to the potential energy. And then as soon as there's movement, obviously your kinetic energy increases, so your pressure energy must decrease. So hence, as soon as there's movement of water, your flow pressure is lower than what your static pressure is. So for the longer a piece of pipe is, the more friction takes place, and the result will be a very low pressure. In a system also, SABS tells us that we are not allowed to exceed 3 meters per second velocity, so that's to make sure that we do not lose much pressure to friction, because we said kinetic energy, as that increases, your pressure energy reduces. So if we limit that kinetic energy, we will remain a high pressure energy in the system. There's one way of working it out, is the 4Q method, but that is only if you are very mathematical. The one I prefer using is the flow chart, and it is very simple there. On the right hand side you've got your flow in liters per minute. At the bottom you've got your hydraulic gradient, which is your friction loss, and then you've got your velocities and your pipe sizes and the other lines. And by basically drawing the lines across, you can work out exactly what your hydraulic gradient or friction loss is going to be and what the velocity is going to be at that flow. So now to start with a junior Flushmaster, the connection size there is a 20 millimeter or 3/4 BSP, which already tells you that the minimum pipe that you're going to use for this installation is a 3/4 BSP pipe. Your pressure, recommended pressure on a top entry pan is 200 to 500 kPa flow pressure. Note, it's flow pressure. And then also for a back entry pan, it's 150 to 500 kPa flow pressure. And then on urinals, it goes down. You can go down to as low as 30 kPa flow pressure, and obviously the maximum, once again, 500 kPa. Every flush gives you a 65 liters per minute flow demand, but that doesn't mean that you are going to get that flow volume, because it doesn't flow for a whole minute. So when you flush for a toilet, it gives you 6.5 liters plus minus a liter, and for a urinal about 1.8 liters plus minus 0.2 of a liter. I don't need to explain to you guys what a junior Flushmaster looks like in an installation. I'm sure you've seen them many times before, and this is a typical exposed top entry to a urinal. One of the nice things about a Junior Flushmaster is every single thing that can wear can be replaced as a spare part. Whether it be the top cover that's been damaged by the plumber or anybody doing maintenance, scratching the chrome, that can be replaced. Internal workings, the push button, everything can be replaced. You will see there also there is a replacement for the button, but it has got a longer lever, and that is if you want to change it to a paraplegic lever. And next to it you will see the elbow. Those two must go together because the button would normally protrude to the front. If you had a long lever coming out to the front, it's going to stab the person in the back, which isn't what we want. So we need to turn the valve through 90 degrees with that elbow, and then we can put the longer lever to the side, and thus making it a paraplegic installation. So how does it work? We know the water will come in onto the left hand side of our picture there. It will go through the boiler stop, which is fully open, and it will start flushing and fill up the whole top chamber and everything until the whole system has come to a rest, an equilibrium. So then the valve is now stopped, it doesn't work. So there we have the valve, it's in the equilibrium position, it is now shut. If I push that button over there, it is going to open up the relief valve up at the top, emptying that top chamber. Because that top chamber has now got low pressure because I've emptied it, this piston will move upward, causing the valve to flush. At the same time, while it is flushing, water is going through the bypass and filling the top chamber again. Once the top chamber has filled up, it will now close again and my valve comes to a rest. The external differences between a toilet and a urinal valve is that the toilet one on the left hand side has got a little hole, it's a breather hole or a vacuum breaker to work as backflow prevention. The urinal one doesn't need it simply because the spreader on the urinal is higher than what your floodplain is, so there you've got an air gap and no anti-siphon protection is needed there then. The internal differences on your piston there, on the diaphragm screw, that is that area over there, you will see there are two different ones. The top one is for the toilet, it's got little wings on it, and the center is smaller, allowing more water to flow past the outside of it down the flush pipe, where the bottom little picture is a bigger circumference on the outside, and it restricts, so it allows less water to flow down the flush pipe, filling the top chamber faster and resulting in a much shorter flush time of 1.8 liters. This one here, it looks like a funny animal, almost like it should be a high level system, but it's not. It's a KM100, which is meant for a drench shower. So it typically used to be on the beaches or at your chemical labs. If you've been contaminated with acid and you want to rinse it off quickly, you simply go and stand under this, pull the chain, and you will flush yourself. That is the old version that you see over there. Now it looks like that, and you will see that the chain has changed a little bit. Doesn't look like the old one, and yet the new one will fit on the old ones. All you have to do is cut off that little lug up at the top that your rocker rests on, and you can remove the push button and replace it with a chain assembly, and it becomes new again. So even your new spares will retrofit on your old one there. Very important, in each one of the boxes is a complete installation instructions and dimensions. Make sure that you do not exceed this maximum height from of the valve to the toilet inlet, otherwise your flush pipe is going to be too short. Also, you don't want to make your flush pipe too short again, because otherwise the toilet seat pushes against the button, and when somebody sits on the toilet, it is going to flush. Very important is that you have a strainer. The problem with any mechanical valve is if any dirt goes and sits on the seat, it will not shut off properly. So a strainer makes sure that all this dirt does not enter into your valve. Now the question there is, do I have to, or is it just a nice to have? Yes, you have to. According to SANS 10252.1, it is law, you must install a strainer to protect any system from the ingress of dirt. Some of the MOTs, or the moments of truth, your features and benefits of the valve, is that it can work directly from a main supply. So you don't need to have a pressure reducing valve in unless your pressure is going to exceed 500 kPa. You don't take it through a valve. It is space saving. It's a much smaller than what a cistern is. It is more vandal resistant than a cistern. It has all the installation options that you can get with a cistern, namely top entry, back entry, concealed through the wall, in the wall. All those different ones are there. It is very easy to do maintenance. What is nice is you have a high flushing frequency, so it's not like a cistern where you have to wait for the tank to fill up first. As soon as you push the button, you are going to get your flush there. Aesthetically, it is also very pleasing. It is water saving in as much as you get your proper flush every time. You don't get half flushes because the cistern hasn't filled up or anything like that. You're going to get your proper flush every time. It also has a built-in shut-off valve, so you can isolate each valve individually without having to isolate the whole installation. The button also has a non-hold open feature, so that you cannot hold the valve open to flush continuously. It'll go through its flush cycle and stop. You have to release the button first, and only then will it then carry on flushing again and go through the next cycle. We also mentioned that you have the little vacuum breaker breather hole at the back, and that obviously gives you your backflow or anti-siphon protection. The valve is very hygienic because it is chrome plated, smooth chrome plated, so there's no little nooks and crannies for dirt to get stuck and hidden there. The standard Flushmaster then is a low pressure installation valve. We can see the inlet piping there is 32 millimeters or 1.25 BSP. So it allows for a much bigger pipe due to the fact that it is a low pressure installation. And we can see here that the toilet valve operates from anything between 30 to 200 kPa flow pressure, much lower than what your junior Flushmaster was. It does use more flush volume of 105 liters per minute, but because you've got your bigger piping and lower pressure, your velocity stays the low, and you still only get your 6.5 liters at each flush, plus minus 1 liter. Once again, every wearable part can be replaced. Any mechanical moving part that can wear out has got a spare part. Here, top left hand corner, you'll see a long lever. You do not have to have an elbow with it, because your standard Flushmaster there already gets moved through through 90 degrees with the elbow that it has got there. The standard valve comes with that, so the valve will just get the extended lever to become paraplegic there. Otherwise everything stays the same. Your FM2000 is the cheaper version. The valve itself is exactly the same, uses the same spare parts as the FM1000. The only difference is it doesn't have the control stop to move it through 90 degrees, so you would not be able to make it paraplegic. If you wanted a paraplegic installation, you would use the FM1000. Top center of the picture, you have an extension piece that is specifically for the Vol Orchid pans. Their top entry pan hole is much further away from the wall. It's 63 millimeters further away, so this extension piece takes it exactly that 63 millimeters further from the wall and makes it nice and neat. You don't have an ugly nipple or piece of pipe still coming through the tiling that you have to try and hide afterwards. Every single rubber component can be bought in a kit separately, so you don't have to replace the whole piston or a whole push button assembly, all you do is you buy the spares, the rubber spares components, and you can service the valve yourself. Operation there, basically the same as a junior Flushmaster. The water will come in through the control stop, push underneath the piston which will lift it up, and the water will start flowing. And then as the water fills up through the overflow, the bypass valve, it then fills up the top chamber and it'll come to rest in the closed position. Once you push the lever, the top chamber gets emptied and the piston will now move up and allow for a flush to take place again. The same as a junior, please make sure that you watch your installation heights, your minimum and maximums, so that you don't have a problem with length of flush pipe. Yeah, you can see this installation picture. If you had to have a home installation, it is always better to have it as a two-pipe system, because your valve takes a lot of water and your normal pressure reducing valves cannot handle that high volume of water. So either for the junior and for the standard, it's always better to have a two-pipe system, one system for your house to do your domestic hot and cold water, and then another separate line to your Flushmaster. If necessary, you can put a pressure reducing valve in there to reduce that pressure, but it must be a valve big enough, industrial type valve, to give you your liters per minute that is needed by that flushing apparatus. Once again, your moments of truth, features and benefits. This one is suitable for stored water, so where you don't have a high pressure, you've got a tank up on the roof or something like that, so it is good for that. It is space saving, it is vandal resistant, it has all the installation options. Once again, your top entry, back entry, behind the wall, in the wall, all of those are there. It's easy to maintain, very straightforward. You have the high flushing frequency, the same as the junior Flushmaster. One that is extra here is that it's a quiet flush, and this is due to the fact that it's a low pressure valve, so your velocity isn't as high, and hence you have a much quieter flush. You have the same water saving. It's got the built-in control stop. You can isolate each valve separately. It also has the non-hold open feature. It has the anti-siphon protection, hygienic, and you have your paraplegic toilet option there. I hope that has answered all your questions, given you all the information you wanted. If not, you are welcome to contact our after sales support department on 0861 21 21 21, and they will be glad to help you with any further queries that you have. Thank you for paying attention.